Oh, these stools. These are like the worst stools. Oh, it's not good having short legs. You'll be fine.
I'm very tall.
You'll be fine.
Hi folks, hi.
Oh, hello.
General opening, so you get an exclusive.
Yes. This is your tiny TED Talk.
Your tiny TED Talk.
This is your tiny TED Talk.
How are you all doing? How's your con been so far?
Great. Yeah.
Have you gone to see Neil so far?
He's like,
Do you not get so warm wearing that?
warmish. Yeah, okay, cool. Nice to meet all of you, and thanks for spending your time here.
Yeah, thank you very much. Neil, how have you enjoyed your time though?
Yeah, it's been fun. Yeah, I'm actually from this neck of the woods, so
Yes.
It's interesting coming back to. I haven't been back to Telford since Telford Tigers.
When was
The ice
that?
hockey team were
God.
champions of ice hockey in Britain.
Were you a big ice hockey fan?
Kind of, yeah. Sort
Okay.
of. My old man was involved in it.
Oh.
So and we used to have lodgers that were Canadians who used to stay with us. So I used to come to Telford as a kid. I haven't been back since, so it's been nice to kind of revisit.
Yeah, because you're from down the road, right?
Yeah, I'm from South Birmingham.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
not
you can tell
far.
by my heavy accent, you know.
Yeah, no, we've talked about that before. It's like he says one word that sounds slightly Brummy.
I say one.
Yeah, one.
One.
Yeah, one.
Which gets picked up by everybody. Like, what? What do you say? It's one.
I would never pick that up though.
Yeah, it's really weird. I don't know why. Just my only tell is that I say the word one.
One.
Yeah.
It's like, but don't change. Never change.
I never fuck that. You know,
Well, I can't change this accent, so you're doing all right. You're doing all right now. What kind of things have people been connecting with and saying to you this weekend at the Comic Con?
I get a bit overwhelmed that I get for some reason a lot of my some of my characters really resonate with trans men. Which I'm incredibly honoured and quite blown away by the fact they identify with something like that, because it means a lot to them, and I'm really proud to be an ally. I'm really proud to be able to support people, and I mean, it's not like I do anything. It's like, you know, I'm just trying to present the character, but it's really humbling to have somebody's experience through what is sometimes a very difficult process, I'm imagining. Feel like they can resonate and have fun with the character they identify with, and it's really interesting. Never would have thought that would be a thing. But yeah, I'm really humbled by that, by kids coming up to me and stuff.
Has there ever been a particular story from any con where it's particularly got to you, it's touched you?
Yeah, there was two brothers that came in. One was non-binary, the other one was trans. And I think the younger brother had a particularly difficult transition coming to understand themselves. And the game meant a lot to them. It wasn't this one, actually. It wasn't Resident Evil, funny enough. It was Detroit, I think. For some reason, it really helped them through a difficult period. Again, it's like, you know, I feel very flattered that somebody's taken my performance, and actually it's meant something to them, and it's, you know, it's the aim of an actor is to present a great story that audiences love. So it's really humbling to have somebody say that to you. Again, it's like not something I can take total credit for. I didn't make the game, but, you know, I'm just a small part in it. But
You're telling the story.
telling the story, yeah. So I really appreciate that. But also anybody coming up to me and saying, I really loved your work, or I hated your fucking... So can we use profanity?
I'm from Glasgow. You
can
can
use
yeah, it's
profanity,
fine.
great.
I'm not going to swear.
I will swear. I will take your quota of swearing and abuse that.
Please do.
You know, people come up to you and say, you know, I really fucking hate your character in a good way. Great, that's my job done. Fantastic. You know, you hate my character. He's a villain. So
I think that's kind of good though. Like, you know, when someone doesn't have a beige response, it's like either love, 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 or hate.
Yeah.
And I guess as an actor, when you started out, like, did you feel that you wanted to help people, or were you just going, oh, you know what, I just want to act?
I want to tell stories. I've been a storyteller since I was a kid. I was very geeky. But I used to play a gamer, and a role play gamer back when it was not cool to be. There was not like Felicia Day out there. There wasn't like Will Wheaton championing nerds. It was deeply uncool to be a role player.
Feel you?
Yeah, I may have got beaten up a couple of times, you know.
Feel you?
So yeah, I've always been a storyteller in my heart. Like since the age of 8, I think it was. I got into the idea of theatre and acting, and I was very lucky that I was supported along the way by my mum. Was very much into theatre, so she helped me go to Stratford occasionally, and we could afford it and stuff to watch plays. Went into National Youth Theatre at 15. I met some amazing people, Ed Wilson. I actually started acting in Birmingham in Central Television Workshop with Colin Edwards, and that was the first time I got into like what is semi-professional acting. So it was great. I was very lucky to meet some very interesting people on the way that really championed me. Sadly, my English teacher, I was still friends with till last year, passed away last year. A guy called Bob Mellowish, who's lovely, and he was the first person that really saw that I was just really keen on it. And I started doing plays at school that nobody came to watch, but I got a kick out. It was great. So we were doing like shit like Tom Stoppard. And like people are like, no, I'm not watching that. So it was like one person in the audience. But it was great because it was a really interesting introduction to great British theatre.
Sometimes when you're sort of on a stage though and there's not a lot of people there, I almost don't care. I kind of don't mind that feeling.
I was in Edinburgh Festival, the first day of our play that we did up there. We played to one person. It was extraordinary.
But you just give it your all.
Oh, we played to one person. So the whole cast went, right, our focus is that one person in the audience. So we're just going to play to them. They had a great time. So it was like, the clapping was interesting. They're like, are you being sarcastic? Because we worked hard. No, it was great. But it's a very humbling experience because you realised that I've never forgotten what it is, why I got into this in the first place. And that was just to tell stories. I'm very grateful and lucky that I managed to make a good career out of it, especially on this side. Because TV and film were great, but I couldn't survive financially. And I was broke quite a lot. And like most actors, we become incredible caterers as a byproduct. So I found games, and it was the first time I could take my face off and become a character actor, which I've always been a character actor. I just was never really allowed to go as far as that. So games really gave me something that TV and film hadn't at the point really allowed me to do, which was to become a complete character actor and really use the craft in the way that I wanted to use it.
So fun.
Yeah, really
so fun.
Yeah, super fun.
Well, let's go back to the beginning and explore.
Let's go back to the beginning.
Wee Neil. Let's explore Wee Neil.
To the point.
I don't call him that in real life. That's terrible. Wee Neil. I'm Wee Claire. This is just Neil. Big Neil and Wee Claire. Let's go back and talk about Wee Neil. Okay. You're proper nerds, as you've mentioned. And we talk about this often. Like, we're both very nerdy. Totally. What was your first video game experience? Let's talk about video games.
Oh, shit. Okay, so my first video game experience was the Spectrum 48K, where I programmed my own computer based off of a magazine. You used to do magazines. You're nodding. You're of a certain age, sir. You're of a certain age. So those of us of a certain age, we had to program our own computer games.
Yeah.
So I got bought this like rubber keyboard. It's like this fucking big. I think like one of the minor apps on my phone has like 10 times the power of that fucking computer, right? But you spend hours like following this like set of menu instructions from a Crash magazine or something like that to make a game that would be shit, but you'd play it anyway. And then of course tapes came into it, like cassette tapes, 45 fucking minutes of heartache. Is it going to work? Is it going to crash? I don't know. And then you play the game and it crashes, and then the emotional resonance of like, I can't go through that again. That was 2 hours of my time just to get to the menu screen. Yeah. So that was my early gaming experience. But there was something about it that just made me feel it's an act. I realized it was an active storytelling medium. And even though there wasn't really usually much story, unless you were playing like The Hobbit or something, which was like, original, like go north, go west and all that kind of stuff. It was still it resonated with me. It was like, okay, this is an active storytelling medium. Yeah. So flash forward into my career now, and I really like the fact that the audience comes with the actor on the journey. Yeah. Because I think it's important to understand that, TV and film is passive. You're watching experience, it's great, it's amazing. It can make you resonate and feel for characters. But games, you're an active player. You're an active actor within the world, which is a whole different experience, which is why I really loved getting into mocap and performance capture early, because I realized where it was going to head. I was doing this like 13 years ago when no actor wanted to touch this with a barge pole. They were like, it's not acting, it's going to ruin your career. I was like, I'm fucking catering right now. What career are we talking about? So I was very lucky to see where it was going to go. Very fortunate.
A great step, a great foresight as well. Yeah. I think that the idea of storytelling, I started with those choose your own adventure books.
Oh dude, they were great. Fighting Fantasy, great man.
Oh my god, I love it. I still
Fighting Fantasy was boss.
There it is. Yeah. I got one recently from Montreal, and it was like a cat. And you play a cat, but it gets really depressing.
That doesn't sound realistic at all. Cats have the best life.
The way it gets, they witness some shit.
Okay.
They've seen shit that people wouldn't believe. To use a famous quote, I'm going to have to get you this book.
Please get me this book.
I think you would like it.
It'll make me hate cats more. It'll be like, I don't hate cats. I love cats. No, I see your reaction. Oh my God, he hates cats. I don't. I love cats. I have a stray cat that comes into my house that we've kind of adopted. But cats have it fucking easy, man.
They do.
They do.
Really
and if they get pissed off with you, they either leave or just throw up in your shoes.
That's true.
And that's like a political statement of like, see what you made me do to you?
Yes.
They're really like manipulative and passive aggressive. I like them a lot. I think they're great.
I kind of like them.
But don't be misunderstood. Cats will fuck you over the first chance.
Oh yeah, I love cats.
Like a dog, because I love you.
There's a zombie cat.
You left me alone for 12 hours, but I love you.
Yeah, my God. Yeah,
experience.
Dogs are also good. Dogs are also fine. In terms of the horror genre, as the kids are growing up, because obviously, you know, we're here to talk about Resident Evil. Were you big into horror growing up? TV?
Yeah, well,
films?
I was an insomniac from the age of 8 to 13. My parents, who are lovely, my parents decided to buy me a television as a way of compensating for that. So I used to watch, I had a cat as well. So I know you're terrified of this idea that I hate cats. I had a cat as well. So my cat and I would watch TV till like 4 a.m. There was a great thing called Cult Corner. I don't know if you, again, gentlemen of a certain age may remember that. It was on Channel 4, and it was about basically everything from Quatermass to Tremors to the original like Dawn of the Dead to to Kind Hearts and Coronet. It was like just everything that you can imagine. All this this smorgasbord of films. So I grew up watching films like from everything, including horror stuff. And so I think I was a little desensitized by the time I was like 12. But but it was more about the story crafting of it and how suspense is built and how these characters, why is it that a film noir character, like, I don't know, Key Largo, like there's sometimes there's a character like that, I can't remember his name now, you know, he talks like this the whole time, that American actor, you know, that kind of thing. Like those are more terrifying sometimes than seeing the gore and the blood and the guts and all that stuff. Because and then it's like, for me, it was like, well, how does that person without any real violence make the character so violent? Like that really resonated with me. I was like, that's really fascinating. That's a craft. So that's why I sort of started getting into it, man. I was like, I really dig it.
So then when you're approaching a character like Heisenberg specifically, with all of your horror knowledge, with all of your nerdiness and everything, what do you inject into a character like that when you got the role and you've accepted it and then you're about to embark on the journey?
Yeah, sure. Well, it really goes to the script. Read the story synopsis in the script. Like any TV and film theatre, you start with the basics of what do you know about the person, what are the facts, what did everybody else say about that person, understanding that that's also biased. And then you have to, from all of that, sort of disseminate the absolute facts of this character. Like, what are the hardcore bottom line facts of this person? And then from there you start creating the wonderful imagination of, okay, well, how do they get to be like this? And if it's not in the script, that's the wonderful thing of you exploring as an actor how to get there. Well, one thing I would say is I never play villains. I haven't played a villain my entire career. My characters are seen as villains. Oh yeah, a lot. I have resting psycho face, man. I'm like, yes, this is me. But you know, I don't see them as villains because you can't play a villain. You can't play evil. You can't play bad. So I would say to any actor that is fortunate enough to start playing those types of roles, you can't play the moral judgment of the character, which I think sometimes does happen with people. They prejudge their character if they're not comfortable with it. I've definitely spoken to actors when they've done some work and I've been mentoring them or something, and they start making judgments about the character. And you're like, ooh, that's for the audience. What you have to do is say, what do they do? Why do they do it? How do they get what they want? What's the wants, needs, and obstacles?
Yes.
And then just do it. And also you have to love them for it. So I love my characters. As reprehensible psychomaniacs as they are, but I love them because they're really interesting characters and I have to honor that. Yeah. I mean, it sounds a bit like, actor talk to honor your character, but it's absolutely fucking true. So I play to fictional truth. So when I'm playing Heisenberg, and Heisenberg is doing this thing, there's reasons for all of it. And it's completely logical. It makes sense. And I fully support his endeavor to take over the fucking world with a metal army. It's like that's his thing. Yeah. So I think for good actors, you don't make judgment on what you're doing. You sort of do the actions, you go through the process, the plot, and then you let it go and let the audience decide whether they love it or hate it.
Absolutely. It's
almost like the aftermath is finding out whether people dug it or not, or if they understood it.
Absolutely. Yes. I do. I think that as well. I don't think anyone's like one side of the spectrum or the other. It's a lot of grey. It's definitely nothing's ever black and white. No, nothing at all. And that's what makes great acting and great characters. going to hand it over to the floor. Do we have any questions for Neil at all?
If you dare.
Do you have any questions for Neil? Yes, we do. I kind of want you to ask a question just to see what it sounds.
I'm so sorry, Matt. It's because it's so awesome. That's why I'm loving it.
You look amazing.
Now, this handsome gentleman in the corner over there. Thank you.
Nice.
Very on point. Like the whole size matters thing going on there,
In character as well. Hello, my friend. What is your name and what is your question?
I'm Jack.
Hi, Jack. Met you earlier, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In the experience of making Resident Evil 2 Remake and Resi 8.
Resi 3, I wasn't into. Yeah.
3?
No, not at all. I just don't want to take credit for... Because Nick Apostolides is a mate of mine and I can't take credit for his work because he'll kill me.
Did anything differ in between the making of them?
In what way? You mean in the technique? Or... Yeah. Not really, no. Performance capture the technology is better in terms of the software and the rendering. So that the level of detail you can have for characters' faces and the nuanced performance has definitely got better and is more allowed. The actual process is kind of the same as it's been for a very long time. So performance capture, you're in essentially just kind of naked in a lycra suit, basically. It doesn't hide anything. So you're quite vulnerable in some ways, but also quite free in others because it's like a blank slate. And you have passive markers all over your body. I've actually got some tattoos of them. So these things here. So these are like marker systems, yeah? So the markers just fire off near-infrared light that comes out the camera as it fires back to them, creates a skeleton. On top of that, they put a thing called a rig, and on top of the rig, they can also then make the actual detail of color and texture, which is called skin. So you're still ultimately the driving force of the character, your movements and your the acting craft that you bring to it and the characterization. That's kind of the same. It's never really changed. The only difference is that what we can do with the performance has definitely changed. I did a thing called Final Fantasy Kingsglaive, which I played Nyx and didn't voice Nyx, but I played his full performance. And we had some really interesting subtle nuances that I was putting into the character. They all came across. And that was because the software just made this sudden leap forward in faceware and the rendering of people's faces that you could actually see these tiny little wincing moments. And they all translated. So that's definitely changed. Knowing that you can do more, knowing that you can perform very realistically. You don't have to do such big grand gestures as we used to do back in the day. Ghost Recon Future Soldier, I played 30K. And we had to do some like reaching for a beer, drinking a beer, and all that kind of shit. It was very, very big. It was very, not theatrical, it was beyond theatrical. It was very large motions to make it work in animation. These days, you don't have to do so much of that. You can play it quite realistically. That didn't change between 3 and 8 because there was only actually about a year or so between when we finished 3 and when we started doing the work for 8. So actually it was only about 12 months. I was in Japan for 3 and then I was out in LA. In between, I was doing something else which is coming out soon. I still can't fucking talk about, but it's about to come out. I was in Hungary, so I was literally like going bang, 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 all over the place. But yeah, technologically speaking, it doesn't really change that much, which is great because then you have a foundation of knowing what you can do, and you can apply that to many different types of characters or stunt work or creature work or that kind of stuff. I do mentor now as well. I mentor actors and performers to help them get a leg up into the industry. And it's the same kind of stuff we've been teaching the last 6 years, really. It hasn't really changed that much. It might do at some point. Yeah.
Thank you for your question. Thank you. We had someone with their hand up over here. Hello there. Okay, let's pass that along. Okay, hello there. What's your name and what's your question?
Hi, I'm Luke.
Hi, Luke.
Hello. Right, so obviously the past few years, we've had a remake of Resident Evil 2, 3, 4's right around the corner.
Yeah.
Do we really think that 5 and 6 will be remastered? Like me,
Do we,
Luke? That's what I'm trying to say. Like, me personally, because that's kind of the point where it went from survival horror to Michael Bay explosions, action, mental, over the top, and that's kind of where it started to lose its identity. So do you think after...
I don't know if it lost its identity. Well, I'd like to think it evolved a little bit, man, but thanks for the dig.
Do we think after 4, is there going to be any more remakes of any more...
I don't know,
games?
dude. I mean, I'm not Capcom. Capcom are very sweet and keep hiring me, which is great. But I can't tell you... I don't know what their designs are. I think one thing I would say is that if you keep having the same thing again and again and again and again, after a while, it's going to get a little bland.
Yeah.
And it's going to be predictable. And if everything's still always, don't forget, these are remakes. They're reimagination to a degree. So why not try something new? And if it doesn't work, they can always, tailor it back on another iteration. I generally don't know how many remakes more they're going to be. Obviously, 4 we all know is happening now, which is great. Beyond that, don't know. The boulder punching asshole thing was a thing. So they might want to. I don't think, and if they do it again, would they still keep that in? I guess they would.
Or you could headbutt the boulder instead.
Sorry?
You could headbutt the boulder instead.
Yeah, they might just tap it with a kick, or someone will just fall on it and go, "Oh, I punched a boulder." And actually, I don't know. They'll be creative. The answer is I have no idea. Don't know. I guess it's a question of what the audiences would like, but then also we can't tailor everything to an audience. We have to present what our take is and go, listen, this is our take. I'm not sure if you're going to like it or not. We didn't know that Village was going to be a massive hit. We didn't know that. We knew it was going to be good. We weren't prepared. Capcom weren't prepared for how big the reception was. And all of us were like phoning each, because we were all friends. That's the thing. All the actors became mates. Like Maggie's a really close mate. So is Nicole, and so is Jeff. And and we were all phoning each other, going, "What the fuck?" Whereas Capcom, we should talk to Capcom because it's like really blowing up. So we were quite surprised by that. So nobody really knows how it's going to land. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you for your question. Does anyone else? I've got a couple more. Oh, right. Okay.
Because something you just said really pissed me off.
Let's get all of these questions and then. Hello, my friend. What's your name and what is your question?
My name is Curtis.
Hi, Curtis.
And my claim to fame is that I was the first Heisenberg cosplayer back when the first ever
Numero uno, the big cheese.
The first trailer dropped in February, I believe.
Yeah.
And I went through a lot of bollocks trying to blow it up onto the big screen, running it through image enhancing software.
I had to kill people. It was a nightmare.
To figure it all out. This was the first hammer that was
It's fucking awesome, by the way.
Thank you.
Can I take it for a little test drive after this? Is that
Please
cool?
do. Please ride my hammer, Neil.
And I can oblige.
I like you, Curtis.
So bearing all that in mind, this is a very important question.
Yes, mate. Yeah.
What is your favorite dinosaur?
All right, so this is going to be revealing. When I was a kid, I was dead into the Transformers. Certain age, 85, we're talking about. Thank you for being my cultural reference point. I feel like we're on the same generation. So I was into this Transformers, man, and there was, I think it wasn't Slag. It was the other one that was like a Stegosaurus.
It was a Stegosaurus.
It was Stegosaurus, yeah. That was like, for me, it was like, wow, that thing's cool. It's got a tiny brain, and yet somehow it's just moving.
The plates on the back.
It just, somehow it just keeps moving, and yet it's got this tiny little brain. So I don't know why I just got into that.
Acceptable answer.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Curtis.
Thank you. No, thank you.
Thank you. And congratulations on your big hammer.
Your hammer's incredible.
Okay, next question.
Size matters.
Size does matter.
Size matters. You heard it here.
Hammer like Curtis's.
Matters.
What's your name and question, friend?
Hi, I'm Dan.
Hi, Dan.
And so obviously you've worked on a couple of the newer Resident Evil titles.
Yeah.
Do you have a connection with the original games and stuff? Were you a fan when they first came out?
Yeah, I was a fan, and I deeply sucked at them. Like I was like shit. Like, and I'm a good gamer. I think I'm a gamer. I can play games. I was terrible at them. I didn't complete any of them. I had 1, 2, and 3, and then after that was like, I'm just going to make my peace with Resident Evil. It's not for me. I'd like it to be for me, but it's just not going to work out. So here's me breaking up with Resident Evil. And then I found it again, obviously being in it, and I played it, and actually have managed now to complete a game of Resident Evil. Thank you, Williams. Thank you. Yeah, I know. Yes. Depressing that only one person did that, but that's quite fine. Yes, no, Resident Evil, was a big part of I was in my 20s, I think, when it came out first. And it was just interesting. It was a really interesting concept to do a horror house. It hadn't really been done like that before. There'd been things like Alone in the Dark, I think came out before that. And it still hadn't got quite that kind of terror that you got in the first game. And it was really interesting. The puzzles were, a fascinating idea and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I dug it a lot. I was just terrible at it. So I gave up. I quit, man.
Thank you so much. We had one more question. Hello. Okay,
Hi.
my love. What is your name and what's your question?
Hiya, I'm Carol.
Carol, how nice to meet you.
I played the first Resident Evil with my daughter while she was still at primary school. She used to draw the map.
And she's now terrified for many different reasons. She has triggers, isn't it?
No, she's terrifying.
Okay.
She's more terrifying than me.
You're right. I think the Resident Evil game may have had a hand in that. I'm not going to speculate, but okay.
Now, Village, I have not played because I had a little whisper that it was going to be on PSVR 2.
Oh, okay, I didn't. Okay,
so I have PSVR 2 ordered now.
Cool.
Can you give me one bit of the game where in VR I'm going to be terrified?
Most of it. Oh, there's one moment. There's definitely one moment. This thing is much bigger than it actually should be, and it just crawls at you, and you're gonna probably defecate yourself. It's really quite scary. I mean, I hated it. I have a little. I'm not going to tell you too much about it, actually. So yeah, it's really fucking terrifying. And you'll run screaming, and then you'll ask yourself, why did I invest in this VR set? And this was a terrible idea, and should never play this game again. Same thing happened to me in the 90s. Simple thing.
We used to play Resident Evil and Silent Hill, and then 2 o'clock in the morning in school holidays, we'd go and walk the dog.
That's a great idea, especially in November where it's nice and foggy. Great idea.
Thank you.
Cool.
You're a great mum.
You're a great mother.
You're a great mother. Can I adopt you and get your brown trousers on? Basically, just get your brown trousers on for it, because that's all I'm going to say.
That's really funny.
Thank you very much for all your questions. Can we have a round of applause for the questions? I love the questions. I love you. I hope I see you. Please come to my other panels. I'm just giving like this.
What's your name, man?
What's your name?
Steve.
Steve. Okay.
Steve the mummy. Love you.
I'm gonna be looking.
Invisible Man, actually. Sorry, it's the Invisible Man. Half mummy, half person. All right.
I'm gonna be looking out for you, Steve.
That's very cool. Thanks.
I got one last question, Neil, before we wrap up. Now, a lot of people ask about tips to get into the industry, and sometimes I ask this too. A lot of things that come back are sometimes the same things, like study your craft or grow a thick skin and all of these things. But is there anything else outside of these? Something a bit more spiritual, or something you'd say that's maybe less? Oh,
yeah, sure. So outside of learning the craft, because you should, and having thick skin, because you have to, I think the big thing is understand why you're doing it. Like, a lot of people... Not a lot, that's not fair. That's an exaggeration. Some people I've met in the past, it's very clear that they're getting into it for the wrong reasons. I've met people for all different types of reasons. I've met people that want to be famous, which is fucking insane.
Yeah.
And you don't want that. You really don't want to have that level of like of overt life, that your life is on display.
That's just sometimes a byproduct.
It's a byproduct. You can't control it, and neither should you. It's very nice. I mean, it's very humbling that all of you turned up to listen to me about acting and stuff. I really appreciate that. But, I do this to tell a story. I don't want to be famous. Like, that's a kind of weird thing to desire. To people know who you are with why. Like, I'm not a hero. I don't save people's lives. I just tell stories.
Absolutely.
We play doctors, we play nurses, we play teachers, we play all these things. We're not them. So those are the people that should be famous. Those are the people that should be paid more, quite frankly, and all that kind of stuff, right? So I think understand why you're getting into performance craft. And the other thing as well is I think if people want to do it, if they like the idea of it, that's great, that's cool. Yeah. You shouldn't do it. You absolutely shouldn't do it. You should do something else that you really need to do. If you need to tell stories, if you need to be a performer, if you need to create something in that way, absolutely do it. And no, it's not going to be easy. And life is not fair. And you may not get what you think you should get. You might get something better, which has happened to me, actually. I was thinking, film TV, and all that stuff. And actually, I found games. And actually, games has been infinitely more rewarding in many ways.
Absolutely.
But I always needed to be an actor from the age of 8. That was it. I wanted to be a storyteller. That's it.
You feel it inside.
Yeah, it's not even a compulsion. It's beyond that. It's part of who I am.
Absolutely.
I need to do it. I've never wanted to do it like as a whimsy thing.
Yeah.
So I think if somebody's like, not sure, yeah, it'd be nice. I like the idea of it. It's like, well, you're not going to survive, because it's just. And if you do get through, it may not end up well, because actually you might resent it at some point. I've never had a bad day on set in games. Not a single day. I've had challenging days, but never a bad day where I've hated what I'm doing. I hate this job. I shouldn't have taken this. No, fuck that. It's always been great, because this is what I was supposed to do in my life,
I love that. Guys, round of applause for Neil.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please make sure you go see Neil today if you've not seen him already. Or if you have, just go see him again. Why not?
Bring the dog, because we've had some people with dogs, and that's been very successful.
Bring your dog.
Bring the dog.
And bring a dog.
I'm not allowed a dog because I travel too much, man. So I can't have a dog.
Don't bring a cat.
I'm cool with cats. Well, I have a stray cat that comes into the house. I call it Cat because I respect its privacy. I don't know too much about it. And it comes into the house like often, like a lot. I'm basically its fucking summer house now. But it's cool because if I go off for 3 weeks, that cat's fine. It's a stray cat. It's going to look after itself. It does not need me. Whereas with a dog, it's like, can't do it.
Too needy. No.
Too geeky, man. So bring your dogs. Yeah, please.
Guys, one last time for Neil Newbon. Thank you.